On this episode of the Layover Live, Sandy Jordan stops by to talk email marketing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 119 of the Layover Live, where we bring you the top article from the Layover each week. I'm Jason Swick, VP of Digital Marketing, joined by none other than Sandy Jordan, Director of Content Marketing. So, Sandy, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, good. I know we're on the same team, but we're working remote, so it's been a little different. So I'm happy to see you again.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to seeing you again in person.
Yeah, it should be soon, right? So, hey, listen, thanks to recent positive sentiment and lifts in drive market demand, and now 5 weeks of positive organic web traffic, marketers are really starting to gear up for reopening. In fact, when we were doing our webinar last week, I think 75% of the respondents that were on there were talking about working currently on their recovery plan, so it's good to see. Now, our article of the week this week comes from Forbes.com, and it talks just about that exact thing, which is preparing for recovery. And one of the best ways that DMOs can prepare and engage with their audience today is with email marketing, and we've seen that time and time again. Email has been a crucial channel during all of this, and when it comes to subscribers and potential travelers, you're likely hoping to maintain that positive relationship, I'd imagine, moving forward, that you've worked so hard to nurture along the way over these last several weeks. So keeping all of that in mind, I've brought in Sandy Jordan this week, our Director of Content Marketing, to share with us how to keep that connection going forward with email marketing as we move into recovery. So, Sandy, I want to hop right into our first question, and really then knowing that every one has really a different level of comfort out there as they're beginning to leave their homes and thinking about travel. What kind of messaging then should DMOs include in some of their email communication?
Yeah, well, it held true before COVID. It will always hold true. You have to know the people that you're speaking to in any scenario. So those rules haven't changed at all. Knowing your audience and creating segments is so critical to your email marketing program, because you don't want to just shotgun the same message to a bunch of different people. They're all going to have a different way of thinking. They're going to have, especially now, some people are going to be very comfortable going out in a mask, wearing gloves, practicing social distancing. You're still going to have a portion of your audience that is just not comfortable doing that yet. Sending those two groups that same message, it's not going to resonate with both of those groups. So we have to find ways to split those audiences up so that we can send messages that will correspond with their values and what they think and how they feel. So it's not just, are you ready to venture out into the world or are you not? We also still have the same segments that we've developed, over the years that we need to also be acknowledging. If we are splitting up our segments by, outdoor adventurers or golfers or, any kind of segments that we've created, we're going to create those segments on top of segments. So we need to focus on what is going to be most important to us from a marketing perspective at this point, and how do we craft that message around those individual segments, whether it's a drive market or a fly market or a particular interest, or are you willing to go out? Do you feel safer at home?
Yeah, it's really good stuff, right? It's keeping things like informative, entertaining, inspirational, which you've talked about, right? It's, segments now I think are more important than ever. We don't want to sound tone deaf to what's happening out there. Each individual group is going to have those particular, itches that they need scratched, so to speak, in addition to knowing that when they do those things, that they're going to be safe and things are going to, and take away some of that uncertainty along the way.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, we still have to make sure that the content is informative, that it's entertaining and inspirational. Talking about things like hometown heroes and positive community stories. Those are the kinds of things that people pretty much in every segment are going to appreciate. We just need to put a spin on each of those depending on the segment that we're marketing to specifically. We want to make sure that the content we're pushing out is seen as trusted content and valued content, so that we're continuing to build that trust with the audience, and then later down the line we can start moving them towards conversion points that are more of a visit style, or come to the destination style.
Yeah, it's a good point, right? It's, as I was mentioning in the intro, like, DMOs have worked so hard to nurture these relationships and become engaging and of value. You want to carry that momentum into what's happening now. So as we think about that momentum, then it kind of brings up the frequency, right? Because this has been an important thing too. We've kind of touted along the way that, hey, don't just keep blanket sending emails out under your normal cadence. You have to really think about the frequency, putting things out only when it's meaningful, only when it provides value. So, how many emails are okay to send then? What's the best time to send these things, Sandy? Let's talk about frequency a little bit then.
Yeah, frequency is really going to vary. It's going to vary by subject. You might even have one segment, that requires greater frequency than another.
Good point.
So it is really important, that we're running those tests. But traditionally, we found that 10 a.m. was roughly like the good time to send emails, because if we looked at most of the people we were sending to, they were just getting their workday started, and around 10 a.m. they were grabbing a cup of coffee and maybe sitting down to take in some emails.
Yep.
Now what we found through this campaign monitor study is that those times have shifted a bit. We have lots of people at home doing homeschooling, or they are, spending more time with their family, or they're doing, tons of, like you and I do, Jason, virtual check-ins with the team, and all that's happening, in the morning. Well, before that day has started, we're sitting down, we're consuming emails before we jump into that. So this campaign monitor study that we found showed that they were getting a lot of success in open rates at 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. And that's definitely a shift from, before everybody started, working from home.
Right.
But really, the best way to determine that is to run your own test. So you send out your emails to your various segments at different times through each send, and then mark which of those segment sends have the greatest open rates. And then you start to see a trend of, well, when I email this particular segment at 10 a.m. or at 4 p.m., I get a greater open rate, and then that traditionally becomes your open rate. So there's some testing in there that you have to do. But if you have a platform, like Acton, you can use something called adaptive sending, which is a feature that's offered by Acton and a couple of other platforms. Within adaptive sending, that's going to look at the time that your contact opened their email last, and then the next email that goes out, they're going to send it at that time, just because that increases your rate or your chances of that person actually opening the email once it's sent.
Yeah, I love the example there of adaptive sending. And I think it's a smart thing to mention, Sandy, and the fact that, if we really think about trying to play the guessing game, that's tough, right? And because the world's a different place now, you made the good point about Campaign Monitor and some of the, instances of like, hey, right now it's showing 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. That's a good place to start, right? And then we should use that as a hypothesis and test our own self out, which you made mention of, which is great also, is like, hey, listen, use those as starting points. Keep a very, very close eye, because we should look at things from a short term right now, because the world is changing so quickly. Run your own test. Look at your emails. Look at how people are engaging. Because we are at home now, different times of the day are going to change based on behaviors, days of the week, kids in school, kids not in school, what's happening with our lives. So I think running your own test is smart. Creating a culture of testing, which we've talked about for years now, is a smart thing to do. Keeping an eye on those things and running your own test to see when your own engagement is. Outside of that, most of us don't have a lot of time to do those things because of furloughs, because things have maybe been laid off, or we're wearing more hats than we have ever than before. I think using adaptive sending makes a lot of sense, because it lets the system take a lot of the heavy lifting and opens them up when it sees fit to do that, using machine learning and other things. So that's a really, really good suggestion. So then, as I was mentioning there, it forces us to look at things strategically, on a much quicker basis, rather than, Sandy, maybe like a long-term strategy. Before, we could plan out things because we knew how things were going to go. We don't know how things are going to go right now, right? So we're going to have to be able to pivot and adjust and be agile along the way. So let's talk about then strategy. What are some email strategies to really then help encourage engagement, right? Because that's what we're really trying to do with email, is engage. and really make sure that we're providing that meaningful content for our clients. So let's talk about that. What are some email strategies to help encourage engagement?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, all of those same strategies that we used before, those strategies still work. Know who you're talking to and talk to them about something that they're interested in. So the best way to encourage engagement is to make sure that the message that you're sending to that particular audience is something that they are interested in. Destination Analyst has been doing some really cool studies on, what people are interested in now, what their sentiment is around travel. And one of the things that they found are people are ready to start exploring the outdoors again. So finding that segment of your audience that was originally interested in outdoor activities, which is probably a segment, that you've already created, and then using that as leverage to send a stronger message of let's get out there and play, if they're sending you that signal that they're ready to do so. So making sure that the content you're sending is interesting and engaging, and then encourage the use of hashtags. Encourage people to have conversations in social media about the destination. That's a perfect way to start getting those conversations and digesting what the sentiment is, how people feel about doing business, how people feel about leaving their homes, and how social distancing is working for them. We also have DMOs that are starting to do pledge campaigns, which is another great way to get partners and your contacts engaged with each other. So DMOs are asking businesses to pledge to safe practices, things like social distancing, mandatory masks, or limiting the number of customers that can come in at a time. They're putting up these pledges, having people sign up for them, and then promoting those businesses to their contacts. This is a really great way, not just to get your partners engaged with you, but also to, again, push that trusted, valued content out to your audience, so that they have another resource for them to go figure out, how can we start joining the economy again.
Yeah, Sandy, really, really good stuff. And I love the idea of how you're talking about, really social media and email in the same breath. I think oftentimes those two platforms are very complementary of each other. Amplifying that content out, not only through your social channels, but amplifying it out through email as well. I think is a smart strategy. And then speaking to, these uncertain times, again, people are going to be looking for, hey, what's going on? Is it okay for me to go to downtown restaurants if I go there? Is it okay for me to go to these places? What are their safety guidelines? So making mention of some of those pledge campaigns is an awesome idea. It's an awesome email marketing campaign, to be honest with you, because to push that out to your audience and let them know, here's how we're taking this seriously, is a smart thing to do. So then that brings up the point of examples, right? Because the pledge campaigns is a great example of, and there's some DMOs that are doing it out there, but do you have some examples that you can share of,
I do.
DMOs and some best practices there?
Yeah, so we could take a look first at a couple of, those pledge campaign pages. This first one is Experience Columbus. And what I like a lot about this one is that, yes, they are providing, what the pledge stands for, which is, following those regulations that the Ohio Department of Health has put forward, cleaning and sanitizing surfaces and implementing health checks. But then they're also giving people an opportunity to sign up for that pledge and then actually showing what businesses have signed the pledge. So you're getting the whole story here. You're getting, what they're promising, and then the actual businesses that you can go to that have promised this. So sending people from your email marketing campaigns to this page is fantastic, and it would serve for both your partnership as well as your leisure audience. And then they also have some videos here about the different styles of face masks. There's a hashtag for sharing the style of mask that you're wearing. It's called Mask Up Columbus, which is fantastic. So this is a really great example of that. Another one is the Outer Banks. Same kind of idea of a tourism pledge. And then they're showing what hotels, what venues have made this pledge, and then leading the audience directly to view those listings. So again, another great example of that.
Yeah, those could be all really good. Those could all. I'm sorry, Sandy, but those could all be like really good email. Those could all be really good email marketing campaigns, right? To be able to say, hey, listen, here's this pledge we're taking. It's the same content that you have on your website, but let's amplify that through email. Let's get it out there. Let's push that content out there. Then drive them back to these sections of the site. Yeah, so good stuff. So any other examples then?
Yeah, for sure. So LA Tourism, they've got some really strong calls to action in their email that went out to their consumers. They are showing places that are restaurants that are providing delivery and takeout. So there's an individual call to action there. They're also calling out virtual museum experiences. But they're also talking about things to do of businesses that are giving back and, catching up on LA movies. So this combination of various call outs can allow us to start to segment the audience depending on their interest. Are they interested in things to do? Are they interested in arts and culture? We can mix some of these with some of the more traditional things to do kind of leads to see if people are ready to start booking an actual visit or some kind of on-site event, and that can help us to redefine what those segments look like as we're splitting our audience between those who are ready to visit and those who are still experiencing virtually.
Yeah, really good stuff and really, really good examples there, Sandy. If you're looking at ways to be able to amplify that content and engage with your audience, email marketing is going to be one of the best ways to be able to do that. If we're looking at ways to recover and utilizing data, our team has a ton of this, right? With our partnership with Google, we've got access to a lot of search data and a lot of trends that are happening in the space. So if you're needing help at all with how to formulate or ideas to formulate campaigns, please reach out to us in our strategy team or your account manager even, because we do have a lot of this data that can help inform some of these marketing campaigns or help you put these campaigns together as you're planning part of your recovery. In addition to that, we have our page that talks about recovery, marketing in the new normal. If you get a chance, please head over and check that out. It's a great resource to kind of show you Simple View's approach and how we're looking at this as really a 4-phased approach as we come out of this. As we're moving in from, the crisis phase, which we're calling destination maintain, and moving into this kind of relaunch or rebound phase. So take a look. It's a really good resource. And again, we're here to help in any way possible. So Sandy, thanks for popping in and sharing this with us today. Email marketing is a great platform, and sharing your insights as I think all DMOs can benefit for this. So thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Yes. And if you're not subscribed, please do so now. This way you can stay on top of alerts when new content is available. If you're not subscribed on iTunes or Spotify, if you want to consume us through podcast, it's a great way to do that now. We'll provide links below. So thanks for tuning in each and every week. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.